Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we will learn about the metabolism of amino acids. First of all, we have to know that what are amino acids. For this, we have to know that the proteins are the polymers of amino acids, which means that many amino acids will club together in order to form a protein. So consider these dots as the amino acids. They are connected together in order to form one protein. So what can we conclude? That the amino acids are the monomers of the protein. Fine. Then we have to consider the metabolism of amino acids in order to understand the metabolism of proteins. Before starting the metabolism of proteins, let me tell you something about the introduction. The proteins perform various functions in the body. The functions are classified into two types. The number one is static and the other one is dynamic. Basically, the static structure means the structure forming functions. For example, in the case of collagen, collagen is that protein which is found in the supportive tissue. Example, bone. Fine. And the dynamic functions. In this, the protein is in the motion state. Example, the hormones, the enzymes. Fine. So let me repeat. The protein perform various functions in the body. They are basically classified into two types, the static and dynamic. Static function means the structure forming function. It has the example of collagen, which is present in the structural tissue of the supportive tissue of the body. Example, bone. Next, the dynamic functions means the protein is in motion state. Example, hormone and enzymes. Next, we talk about some general points of the proteins. Let me tell you one interesting point about collagen. Basically, the half of the amount of the whole body protein is made up by collagen. Fine, that is the 50% of the body protein is only collagen. Fine, and it is found in the supportive tissue. Next, we have already read about the central dogma in the class 12th. What the central dogma says that DNA will make up the mRNA, then mRNA will make up the protein. The conversion of DNA into mRNA is named as transcription, and the conversion of mRNA into protein is termed as translation. Fine. So the protein will get made up from the mRNA with the process called as translation. But the protein will become functional only after the post transcriptional modification, that is PTM. What does PTM stand for? PTM stands for post translational translation modification. Fine. So the protein is made up from the mRNA by translation, but it becomes functional after the PTM, that is the post translation modification. Now, what we thought that the amino acids are only serve as the monomer. We considered this aspect till now, but this aspect is not complete. The amino acids are not only the monomers of the protein, The amino acids have their own metabolism, and the amino acids have their own function. For example, we will consider the metabolism in detail, but let's first talk about the function. Few amino acids may serve as a precursor for the biologically important compound. Precursor for biologically important compound. What are the examples of biologically important compounds? Like we have serotonin, we have melanin, fine. So not melanin, melatonin basically. Sorry. We have melatonin, and next we have creatine. Fine. Okay, so the first function is a precursor for the biologically important compound. Biologically important compound has examples of serotonin, melatonin, and creatine. The next function is the amino acid act as a neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter are the chemicals in the brain. Fine. So the amino acids which can act as a neurotransmitter, these are glycine, aspartate, aspartate and glutamine. Fine. So these are the amino acids which act as a neurotransmitter. Which amino acids? Glycine, aspartate and glutamine. This is all about the introduction. Now we will start with the topic called as amino acid pool. Fine. So the adult has 100 gram free protein with herself or himself. Free protein. Fine. Now this protein is present in the several compartments. This will form the amino acid pool. So what we conclude that the amino acid pool did not consist of a single compartment, it consists of several compartments. Fine. Next, the glutamate and glutamine will together form the 50% of the amino acid pool. So glutamate and glutamine will together form the 50% of the amino acid pool. Next, the 10% of the amino acid pool is formed by essential amino acids. Essential amino acids are those amino acids which has to be supplied through the diet. Fine. Uh, Next we will talk about the sources of the look. The amino acids have to be added in the pool and have to be removed from the pool. Just consider the case of a swimming pool. The fresh water has to be added in it, and the water which is not clean has to be removed from it. Similarly, the amino acids have to be added in the pool in order to fill the pool, and the amino acids has to be removed in order to maintain a balance. Fine. So first of all, we talk about the addition of amino acids, or we can call them the sources of amino acid pool. Sources of amino acid pool. Basically, there are three sources for the amino acid pool. The number one is turnover of protein. Turnover of protein. Next one is the intake of dietary protein. Next is the next is the synthesis of the non-essential amino acid. Synthesis of non-essential amino acids. So there are basically three sources of the amino acid for the amino acid pool. These are the turnover of protein, intake of dietary protein, and the synthesis of non-essential amino acids. Fine. The amino acids are removed with the help of the various functions which are performed by amino acids. Basically, in this case, we have to only explain the functions. Fine. So, I will start with the sources of the amino acid pool. So, we have to start with the sources of amino acid pool. The number one source of the amino acid pool is the turnover of the protein. Is the turnover of protein. Fine. Look, every day in the body, the 300 to 400 gram of protein is made up and synthesized. 300 to 400 gram of protein is made up and then degraded. Then this is called as a turnover of protein. What is this 300 to 400 gram? It is the amount of protein which is synthesized and degraded every day. This is a turnover of the protein. Fine. Now, how can we control this turnover? Basically, look, in the aspect of turnover, we came across a term called as the lifespan of protein. Basically, lifespan of protein represents the period from the time when the protein is made till it is degraded. Fine, it is a lifespan of protein. The proteins which are present in our body shows a great diversity in their lifespan. Show a great diversity in their lifespan. Like few proteins have very short half-life. Few proteins have very short half-life. For example, plasma protein. And we have the enzymes. And few proteins have long half-life, like they live for months or years, like that case of collagen. Fine, they live for months or years. Now, what is the mechanism of the control of the turnover of protein? Like how the body decides that this protein has to be degraded or this protein has to remain in the body. So basically, now we have to study about the control of turnover of protein. Control of turnover of protein. Fine. Now the proteins which has to be degraded are tagged with ubiquitin. Ubiquitin tags. These tags are placed on the proteins which has to be degraded. What is ubiquitin? Ubiquitin is a small polypeptide. Small polypeptide. Fine. Moreover, the proteins with the best sequence. What is the best sequence? Best sequence means the proteins which has the sequence as proline, glutamic acid, serine, threonine will be degraded rapidly. Fine. These are the single letter codes for the amino acids. Fine. So we have read 2 points in the control of turnover, that is the proteins which has to be degraded are tagged with the ubiquitin, which are the small polypeptides. Next, the protein having the best sequence, that is the proline, glutamic acid, serine, threonine sequence, are degraded rapidly. Next is the next source of the amino acid for the amino acid pool is the intake of dietary protein. Intake of dietary protein. Look, every day 30 to 50 gram of protein is degraded. That means every day the nitrogen is lost from the body. Now the thing is that what is the relation between the protein and the nitrogen? Look, the protein is composed of amino acids. What is the general amino acid structure? General amino acid structure is NH2 carbon COH having a variable R group and hydrogen. So this is hydrogen. So the nitrogen is present in the amino acid and the amino acid is present in the protein. So when the protein is lost from the body, nitrogen is also lost from the body. Okay, in order to maintain this nitrogen balance, in order to maintain the nitrogen balance of the body, in order to maintain nitrogen balance of body, the body has to be supplied with the proteins. That's why the intake of dietary protein serves as a source of amino acid for the amino acid pool. The next source of amino acid for the amino acid pool is the synthesis of non-essential amino acid. Synthesis of non-essential amino acids. What are non-essential amino acids? Non-essential amino acids are those amino acids which are synthesized in the body. Nearly 10 amino acids are non-essential amino acid. How many amino acid? Nearly 10 amino acid can be termed as the non-essential amino acids. These are added to the amino acid pool after their making, after their formation. Fine. So what we have read so far, we have read about the sources of amino acid pool, basically which will form the input of the pool, means we will add something in the pool. So there are three sources about which we have read about. The number one source is the turnover of the protein. Turnover of protein. Next one is the intake of dietary protein. And then last one is the synthesis of non-essential amino acids. Now we are supplying the amino acid pool with the amino acids. These amino acids has to be utilized by the body in order to avoid the accumulation. Fine. So now we will talk about the utilization of the amino acid. The utilization of the amino acids. Basically, look, the number one is every day 30 to 50 gram of the protein is lost from the body. So the amino acids of the pool is used to synthesize the new proteins. Fine, as the 30 to 50 gram of protein is lost daily from the body. Next, the amino acids are used for the synthesis of nitrogenous compounds. Used for the synthesis of nitrogenous compounds like purine, pyrimidine, purine, pyrimidine. Fine. Then the 10 to 15% of the body requirement is met by the amino acid. The amino acids are sometimes converted to glucose or fat. This occurs when the protein consumption is high as compared to the body demand. When the protein consumption is higher than body demand or requirement. Fine. Then body requirement. Okay. So this utilization of amino acid will be output of the amino acid pool. Means we are extracting the amino acid out of the amino acid pool. At last, there are some noteworthy points we will talk about. The number one is the concentration of amino acid is more outside the cell as compared to the inside of cell. Hence, when the amino acid has to be transported inside the cell, it is done by the process of active transport. Active transport means there will be a consumption of ATP. Fine. Next, the next noteworthy point is the amino acid cannot be stored in the body just as the carbohydrate are stored in the body, but the amino acid cannot be stored in the body. If they are consumed in excess, they are oxidized to provide energy. And the NH2 part in amino acid, that is the amino group, this amino group will be converted into urea and will get excreted from the body. Fine. So this is all for today's class. Thank you.